Hello, Zinger Nation. This is Justin Roberti. How are you today? Very glad you could join us. Today, of course, we have the fantastic Mr. Tim Draper coming to join us to talk about his Bitcoin predictions. It obviously, you probably have heard the news, as Bitcoin has had sort of a rough time of it, having lost 70% of its value since its all-time high. But Tim continues to be a very strong believer in digital asset class and in Bitcoin in particular. I'm always excited every time I get to talk to him. Please like and subscribe and do all of that conscientious stuff that you should do in order to help support the show, because we do very much appreciate it. But please also use the chat to go ahead and ask questions. We'd love to hear from you if you have questions for Mr. Draper. I'm going to go ahead and bring Tim on without any further ado. So, good afternoon, Mr. Draper.
Hi, Justin. Thanks for having me on the show.
Oh, thank you very much for coming. So, obviously, it's been an interesting time in the market. Would you agree?
Well, yeah, but oh, I've got a little echo.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think this was pretty somewhat predictable.
Yeah.
Because when there's inflation, then the Fed has to raise its interest rates. So the stock market will fall. And with it will go all the speculators out of the crypto world.
Right.
I think actually now the two are going to start diverging. I think that what we've got left in the crypto world are the true believers,
right?
And a lot of the speculation has come out of it, and the true believers are thinking, yes, this is the future of, particularly Bitcoin, is the future of currency, the future of banking, the future of finance, and it's a difficult thing to imagine, and particularly when everybody's down in the dumps about it. But I'm a believer that we're about to go through an anthropological leap. We almost had it with the internet. We almost had the leap with the internet. But then when cryptocurrencies showed up, the governments decided that they would go back to being control freaks instead of allowing the freedom that they need to allow. And so we've got a bit of an uphill battle right now, but long-term technology always wins out. And the long-term, I think we're going to see a real change in the way the world works. I can imagine a time where I can raise a fund all in Bitcoin, invest it all in Bitcoin, have all the entrepreneurs pay their employees all in Bitcoin, and have all of that on one big or a series of different smart contracts that keep perfect records. Those people can be anywhere. They can, and their wallets will be filled as entrepreneurs sell their businesses. And meanwhile, the entrepreneurs have perfect visibility into what's going on in their business, because the accounting happens in real time. The taxes are paid in real time. I don't know. I mean, governments are paranoid just because they're losing control, but the taxing system will be more efficient, and we don't need to have the tax code be so complicated. There are so many things that can be done better now that we have Bitcoin, and I don't know if you're a politician today and you're saying that. I don't know how easy it would be to get elected. They seem to want to elect the control freaks. Basically, government control doesn't work. It just doesn't. Freedom and trust are what work. And all you have to do is go look at the difference between North and South Korea. And you just know that was divided 70 years ago. And in the North, they decided that they would use government control, socialism, communism, Marxism. and the government decides what everybody does, and everything else is regulated out of the system. And then South Korea was a free market, open system. The borders were open, free speech, democracy. And here we're 70 years later, and the average South Korean makes 460 times what the average North Korean makes. And they are now 4 inches taller than the average North Korean.
Right,
so this is a whole new change. I mean, if people are still trying to say, oh, we need more government or more government controls or more regulations or whatever, they got to go to North Korea. Or they can just go and just
a lot of people are saying that, though, Tim. I mean, whether Scott Melker, who has been on the show, good friend of the show. I know you were on with him recently, just a few weeks ago, or like Jordan Belfort when I had him on. From the perspective of many VCs and heads of hedge funds and so forth that I've spoken to, a lot of them are saying, look, as soon as we are serious about this digital asset class, which of course the flagship of that digital asset class is Bitcoin, is and has been, we will show that we're serious about it and ready to take it seriously by providing a clear regulatory framework. You're the only person I've talked to so far that has spoken in the other direction. So yeah.
By the time the U.S. government has a regulatory framework, we are going to be 40 years behind El Salvador. I mean, I met a bunch of these government officials from El Salvador working with the president on their Bitcoin strategy. I was jealous. I could not believe how far advanced they are in their thinking. They've got smart contracts everywhere. They got people are paying with Bitcoin. They're paying their taxes with Bitcoin. The system is working. That government is going to be 40 years ahead by the time we get some regulatory framework for this. This is garbage. I mean, we've got a bunch of 70-year-olds sitting around talking about something they know nothing about.
You don't think that Nancy Pelosi gets Bitcoin, Tim?
I don't think she has a Bitcoin wallet.
Yeah,
and it's not just Nancy. The whole Senate is 70 years old, and the average owner of a Bitcoin wallet is probably 30. And so the good news is that people my age are dying off, and this 30-year-old group is going to change the whole nature of the world. The world's going to open up. We're going to have this decentralized world. We're not going to need the borders are going to crumble over time. People will be able to move from country to country very easily. And eventually we'll all be like citizens of this great world. And we'll all have a currency that can be used anywhere. This is we're just going to go through. This is going to be the dark time before great things happen. I think we're going to have some great things, but the dark time just means regulators get paranoid and they say, "Oh no, we have to control it. No, we have to control it." And they think they're trying to protect people, but basically they're keeping us out of a really lucrative market. You have no idea how many startups have come to me and said, well, we started in the US and we decided not to operate in the US because of the regulatory environment. I mean, and our regulators, those poor guys are stuck with laws that were created 80 years ago. What the heck are they thinking? That doesn't make any sense today.
Aren't we facing a challenge, though, in terms of, wouldn't it be better, wouldn't Bitcoin be a more effective currency if it would hit somewhere a little bit more moderate and hang there? It's I was a little. Are
you talking about the price? The price?
Yeah, talk about the price. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so one Bitcoin is still worth one Bitcoin, and it always will be.
Right. That's true.
And all these other currencies are, let's see how I can do this, very volatile as they slowly disappear from use.
Mm-hmm.
It's not Bitcoin that's volatile. It's the other currencies and how people perceive them against Bitcoin, and they will disappear from use. These fiat currencies, they aren't as good, and they are not going to be around forever. It's going to be one of those things where everything's sort of fine, and then there's this huge move away from fiat, and it's going to be when I can do my food, my clothing, and my shelter, I can buy it all in Bitcoin. Then there will be no reason for anyone to hold on to a currency that inflates and is tied to government whims, and is controlled by and is only available in that country and only useful in a number of countries, but not all of them. Whereas Bitcoin, it's all of them. It's frictionless. It's decentralized. It's so controlled by no one.
So
and it's transparent, so you can keep perfect records. So this is going to be like when there was a run on Confederate dollars. And I remember my dad giving me $1 million Confederate bill. And he laughed, and I said, "Well, what's it worth in these Union dollars?" And he said, "Oh, it might be worth the paper it's printed on." And what happened there was when the Union won that war, it started out, people were just like happily trading these Confederate dollars, and then all of a sudden they went right off the cliff. I think the same thing's going to happen, and people are going to be stuck holding these fiat dollars that nobody wants. It'll go the way of the French franc and the drachma, the Confederate dollar.
I mean, what stops the U.S. Government from digitizing the dollar at that point? I mean, once it's proven out to be successful, couldn't they just kind of eat our whole lunch, steal the whole idea, rip it off once it's already developed?
Sure, but then it's not decentralized, it's not open, it's not transparent, and it can be manipulated by politicians. I don't think that that's the currency we're all going for. So I've always thought of these stable coins as like a bridge to Bitcoin.
Right.
It's eventually we're going to be at a full Bitcoin economy, but until we get to that, sure, people can use stable coins. They can try out, they can speculate on other currencies or whatever, but eventually we're going to be a full Bitcoin economy. And all of the other currencies are creating a lot of interesting innovations, and that's exciting. And so they make good investments. But ultimately, Bitcoin is going to take the cream of those applications. So, all the experimentation might be happening on some other platform. But when Bitcoin has DeFi and NFTs and smart contracts, then there will be no reason to use the other currencies.
You make you made some predictions going back as early as, I guess, in 2018, when Bitcoin was around $8,000. You predicted that it would reach 250 by the end of 2022 or early 2023. What I love about, I love that you make predictions, because reporters, we have a hard time getting people to do that, to put their necks out like that. But and then also your philosophy seems to be to stick to them. Are you still sticking to the $250,000 mark, early 2023, late 2022?
Yeah, absolutely. Here's, by the way, let me give you the whole history.
Okay.
Bitcoin was at 180, and I predicted on Fox Business News, that Bitcoin would hit 10,000 in 3 years. So that was 2014.
Right.
3 years later, almost to the day, Bitcoin hit 10,000. So then Bitcoin was down at 4,000 in 2018. And I made the prediction of 250,000 by 2022 or early 2023. And yeah, I'm sticking with it. Of course, I'm sticking with it. I made the prediction. I'll stand by it. And all that really needs to happen is the retailers need to discover OpenNode, because once they have, they can accept Bitcoin, and that extra 2% will go straight to their bottom line. So they're going to be pushing consumers to use Bitcoin. And women control 80% of the retail spending. And they only have about 1 out of every 6 Bitcoin wallets now. It was 1 out of 14, and now it's 1 out of 6. So it's starting to happen.
Right.
But there will be a moment where retailers are saying, wait, no, we just want your Bitcoin. And then the shoppers are going to go, oh, well, I'll pay in Bitcoin, no problem. And once that starts to happen, then there will start to be a run on the fiat currencies.
Right.
That's my guess. And it's a cliff. And when it's a cliff, 250,000 might be conservative.
Really? Wow. I mean, and you're seeing, because of greater participation by women in this digital asset class and Bitcoin itself, which is really interesting to know. I mean, at this point, they certainly have been the minimum. Do you think that is it NFTs that have helped get more women involved in crypto, or do you think it's just a matter of time, just a matter of, as it grows larger, it'll become more demographically balanced?
Well, it might. I don't know if it's NFTs or just it's been around a long time, and people are starting to say, well, everyone is starting to say, well, maybe I should have a Bitcoin wallet. NFTs are going to be huge. They're going to be a really big deal. It started with art and collectibles and Bored Ape clubs, but NFTs are going to be everything from your healthcare result, anything that's specific to you and needs to keep perfect record and is a permanent record. So your genetic history, your driver's license, your diploma, probably your insurance will probably be an NFT. And it's just NFTs are really just databases that have a lock to them. And and then as smart contracts start to grow and evolve, then those smart contracts will then they will be NFT. I mean, they'll all be NFTs, and all of our deals will be done on NFTs. So I think those things are awesome. It's great technology, and
you believe in the technology. We've had the opportunity to speak a number of times. I remember something you said at one point in terms of investment strategy. I believe, I'm almost certain this was you. You said something to the effect of, other people look at what can go wrong. You try to look at what can go right in an investment.
Yeah. That I had a number of very brilliant partners, most of whom would tell me all the things that could go wrong with an investment. But that's fine for later stage investing. For early stage investing, and for this kind of thing where it's a complete revolution in the way people operate and think. Early stage investing, you got to think, what's the end game? What does this look like? And what this looks like at the end is that we have a currency that we can all use that operates completely autonomously. It keeps perfect records. It's checked in many different locations because it's decentralized. and it's cross-border, so it isn't tied to any fiat, any government controls, none of that, and that's going to really open up a lot of opportunity. I just think it's going to be a big deal. And so you look at that and you project out and you say, what is the upside here? The upside is an anthropological leap forward. And the downside is, it just ends up being a fun way to store value.
So, are you seeing this as an instance where you've got kind of a turgid traditional finance economy that is dragging down crypto? Would you agree with that sentiment, or to what do we owe this fourth cycle? Is it just cyclical? Is it something we can predict?
Yeah, there are always going to be a lot of cycles, or people jumping in and then jumping out and jumping in and jumping out when you have a trend that is really taking off. This happened, Amazon went through a bunch of fits and starts. Apple went through fits and starts. They all do as they become a part of our lives. And so you're going to see Bitcoin, all sorts of cryptocurrencies bounce up and down and up and down. And there'll be speculation, and there'll be, it's the end of the world. By the way, when they say it's the end of the world, buy everything you can with every piece of money and assets you've got.
Really? Yeah. You mean when
they start saying it's the end of the world, like, this stuff, we knew it was wrong, whatever. Whenever you start hearing that stuff in the press, that's when you just go in big.
Yeah. And they have been. The Wall Street Journal, it didn't say, it was something to the effect of crypto is dead a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, no, they said New York. No, they said New York was smart enough to avoid this. That's what they said. But it was garbage because, first of all,
I feel like I detect a small bit of there have been some traditional finance journalists who maybe have taken a small bit of understated delight in the troubles in crypto. I get that impression.
Right. Well, the New York Times is classically hates the Silicon Valley, because New York was the center of the universe, and then the Silicon Valley created all this value, and it came from nowhere. And they're thinking, wait a second, I thought California was the dark ages, but the Silicon Valley's created all of the value. In fact, what is it? It's like, how many trillion-dollar companies are there? And none of them were started in New York.
Right.
One is Saudi Aramco, and the other ones are Apple, started here, Microsoft started in Washington, the state of Washington. Tesla started here.
Google.
Amazon started in the state of Washington, and Google started here. So New York is thinking, wait, aren't we the center of the universe? And no, they're not. And so, New York Times is a little bitter about
it. So there has been a lot of declarations, some more direct than others, that crypto maybe not such a good idea after all, coming from the mainstream press. I feel like we've run into some reporters that have been looking to print those headlines for a while now. Who are, but obviously, I think we can agree there's going to be a shakeout of some sort. We pretty much
they're gonna write those articles when Bitcoin's at its lowest.
Right.
When it's at its highest, they're gonna say, this is the gift from the gods. They tend to be a reflection of what's going on today.
Right.
They're not projecting out. They're not thinking about what the future looks like. They are very good at, the press, free press. Hey, it's one of our best assets. But very few press people really want to stick their neck out.
Right. No, that's true.
Predict what the future is going to be. Rather, they would much rather say what has happened, what happened today, yesterday.
So do you think there's going to be a shakeout in terms of projects, though? You kind of alluded to that it's going to change the landscape a little bit, this particular downturn.
I would never limit anyone's imagination. I think there will be projects that'll keep coming, interesting currencies, interesting NFTs, interesting smart contracts. There is a long way to go there. That, somebody nails smart contracts and simplifies it and makes it legal, kind of takes a legal document, turns it into software. That is going to be a big deal moving forward. And so I do think that there are going to be a lot of new innovations,
right,
and a lot of great things that happen. Now, that doesn't mean that a downturn like this doesn't wipe out a couple of the orphan coins, the ones who people have given up on or really didn't have a purpose other than raising money.
Are we still looking at fallout from stable coins? Do you think stable coins are going to be able to crawl their way back to gaining some sort of public faith again?
Yeah, I think, when people read those documents, I think I loved math, but I didn't particularly love calculus. But it turns out calculus was really valuable in this way. They always talked about what happens in the extreme cases. They talked about what happens at the zero and at infinity and whatever. And that was kind of a focus, big focus of calculus. Well, it turns out that those infinity cases, those rare cases, they don't happen all the time, but they eventually happen. So when you read a legal document, I don't know I never read the one on Luna and Terra. I didn't read the document there. I never invested in either of those. But when you read those documents, always look for those edge cases. It's the edge cases are where you think, oh, well, it will never happen. It always happens sometime. It just doesn't happen very often. And in their case, that edge case was when Ethereum dropped in half or something from where it was. All of a sudden, there was this tumble that they thought was an edge case that would never happen, but it turns out it does. So that doesn't mean that all stablecoins are gone. I think stablecoins are a good way to move money around. And when you have a digital currency, that is one of the values of it, is that it increases the momentum of or what do they call it? The liquidity of a society.
Right.
Like when we went from shells to gold, and we went from gold to the promise of gold, and from the promise of gold to the Federal Reserve note, and from the Federal Reserve note to Bitcoin, each was this liquidity leap. And when you have a liquidity leap, everybody gets richer. So stable coins are better than fiat coins. Now, it depends on what's behind them.
Right.
And but the ones, when they're two coins, and the way they work is that one coin dilutes to keep the value of the other coin. And when things are down and when things are up, they burn those coins so that there are fewer of them. Well, in this case, I think there was a limit to the number it would dilute to, thinking it'll never get there. and that was a mistake. They should have had no limit to the number of coins that it can do to, and then Terra and Luna still would be in play. There would just be a lot more.
Is there any, I know that you're not a big Bitcoin maximalist, although you're a big fan. What other projects are you, feeling kind of bullish on right now? I mean, obviously this is buying season for bigger investors, right? It's a good time to buy.
Well, I never recommend. I just tell people what I have,
Right.
And that is I've got a lot of Bitcoin, and I've got a number of other cryptocurrencies where I backed the entrepreneur. I backed the person who was going to develop them, and that tended to be a much better way to choose coins, because I knew somebody very strong was going to dedicate their lives to it.
Is that why I noticed that you will take white papers and pitches, as a VC just from outside? You're open. People can send their papers to you, and you'll take a look at them. Is that what that open door policy is about? Know the person?
Yeah, I'm Tim at Draper.vc, and if you have a plan, just send me a plan. If you, I don't want to hear about your life story. I don't want to hear about whether you've, whatever has happened to you in your
short
life.
Story or anything.
I do care about, like, if you've got a new plan, you got a new token you've created, you've got a new business, that new token better have something completely new to it, because I've seen a lot. But I'm always open, because I was early in a lot of things. I was very early in Bitcoin. That was 2011, and even before that, I was looking for digital currencies. And I was the first Silicon Valley venture capitalist to invest in China and Eastern Europe. So I've always had this sort of adventure capitalist to me.
Sure.
And so as an adventure capitalist, I tend to find things that a lot of people aren't really looking for. Right. And when I do, it's usually because I meet somebody and I say, God, I saw something like this in Portugal. Maybe this is the beginning of a trend. Or, hey, this is, we have venture funds now, and they cover about 60 different countries throughout our network. And so sometimes I'll see something in one place, and I'll run into one of my partners from another place, and we'll talk and we'll compare notes. And then together we can kind of project what that future might look like. So that's what I'm always looking to do is, what's the future look like? And how do we make a better future? How do we make it nice for all of our kids, grandkids? How do we make it better? And that turns out to be a really good way to put your money to work. It just works.
Yeah, are you still working directly with? You were working with the El Salvador government at one point, right? I mean, that's a pretty interesting use case that you've referred to a number of times here. How is that going? I know that there were headlines immediately when Bitcoin took a steep drop. How is it holding up as a currency there in light of the tumultuous market?
Well, I think that president has some very strong guts, and he looks at it. Singapore went from being one of the poorest countries in the world to one of the richest, just based on Lee Kuan Yew coming in and saying, I'm going to create trust in this country, and I'm going to build a great education system, and I'm going to create free markets here. And it's not going to be government controlled. It's going to be freedom and trust. And And I think the same kind of thing is happening with that amazing, great leader in El Salvador. And it's not just there; it's anywhere. Like the Democratic, what is it? The Democratic Republic of Congo.
Mm-hmm.
They're an incredibly poor country, and they're looking and saying, "Hey, we're poor because we've had government controls for too long. Nobody
Right.
trusts our currency." And if nobody trusts your currency, then there's no incentive to build for the long term. Um, there's no stored value, so you can't build something great and then store the value. So they live for today,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what government controls do. They force people to live for today rather than living for the future. Well, and now Ukraine is making Bitcoin a national currency too, because they're saying, God, can't get any worse than this. We're under attack, and
Mm-hmm.
the place is poor, and cryptocurrency will be a
And,
great way for people to
crypto
operate.
definitely helped get crypto was the preferred way to take donations from Jump. So that actually says something, because obviously they don't have, when it began, they didn't have time to reflect on it a lot. I'm sure that crypto was their best shot at getting funds into the country.
That's true too, and why Japan was the first country to say we're going to make Bitcoin a national currency, and that was because China was making it illegal, and they
Mm-hmm.
figured, well, we'll attract all those great entrepreneurs here.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how well that worked, but I'm sure there were many, many entrepreneurs who said, if China's going to make what I do illegal, I'm going to go to Japan because they've just made it legal.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're seeing a little bit of a wedge between the countries who are freaking out because they're control freaks and the
Mm-hmm.
countries who are saying this is a great opportunity for the future growth of our economy. And then you see the U.S. who's just sitting there juggling a ball, thinking about some regulations that were created in 1933 and 1940.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely time to let it go, let it free. I mean, that's what we did with the internet, and look how rich the U.S. got on a free internet.
Right.
Uh, they should just say, "Hey, let's go see what happens. Let's go build it, build DeFi, build NFTs, build smart contracts. Do it
Mm-hmm.
here, because you're losing. The U.S. is losing all these people,
Mm-hmm.
all these great entrepreneurs. They keep leaving."
Sure. I know lots of people, project leads move to Singapore, move to the UAE, for example. There's lots of places.
Yeah, the UAE they'll probably end up making Bitcoin a national currency there.
Mm-hmm.
They are really encouraging entrepreneurship there.
Mm-hmm. Well, leave us with some advice for the rank and file. I mean, obviously, a lot of people are feeling a little bit right now. Are feeling the sting of the change and in the direction of the market. Obviously, we're not giving financial advice, but in terms of how to approach this, how to look at it, to contextualize it, so maybe it's not quite so painful, present tense.
So I think what can give you hope is that the dot-com bust felt like the end of the world,
Right.
and some of the greatest companies in the world came out of it.
Right.
And I think the same kind of thing is going to happen with Bitcoin. I just see, people were reeling from, Microsoft was really crushed. I think it was down 70%. Actually, it looked like they were going to delist Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
The whole system was falling apart. Google had just figured out their business model. the you know, the year 2000, 2001 were really bad. And what was worse was 2002, 3, and then 2004, the government came down with more regulations and they ruined it for another 3 years.
Right.
But then after that, look, the internet's been magical for us.
Mm-hmm.
God, I can order a toothbrush and it shows up in 4 hours.
Mm-hmm.
I can go, you know, I can just say, hey, come pick me up here and send me here. I can stay in, you know, an Airbnb, wherever I want. So many incredible things that I can do because the internet is here. But in the year 2001, 2, 3, all 3 of those years, it's just sounded like it was the end of the world. And it sounded like it was the end of the internet. And so if you're a believer, hang in there. If you're a speculator, do whatever you want.
Well, Tim, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us.
My pleasure. I like the last comment. Tim sounds like he has dementia.
Yeah, I don't know. Why you got to be rude, bleachers? What is up with that? And that's not how. I don't think that's how you spell that. But that's okay. I'm sure my kids think that I sound like I have dementia.
I think bleachers. Let's see how this 250,000 thing goes. And he's absolutely right. If I end up being wrong, but if I'm not, bleachers.
That's the thing, and you're still the guy. What we're talking like Hotmail, and you were involved with that PayPal, but you've been knocking it out in the park my entire life, basically. So I look forward to seeing how this thing's going to play out. But I mean, I appreciate that you go back to the projects and that you go back to we lost Tim, and I'm going to bring him back on for some reason. There we go. Hey. I appreciate that you go back to the projects and that you go back to the people themselves and the concept behind it. You know, a lot of people, by relying just on the money coming, the money reports come out and are looking only at that part of it, so they don't see the true potential. So I love that you focus on the potential of the technology overall. I hope you're right.
Well, thanks for having me on the show, and I appreciate what you do. And and there times like this are tough on you too. I mean, I imagine advertisers are not jumping up and down.
Yeah. Things get a little bit more lax. That's for sure. But it's a good time to just kind of like dig in and go a little bit harder on the content. I'm hoping we'll get better projects out of this ultimately. You know, the market, but creating competition. Well, thank you, Tim. You have a good night. Talk to you soon.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. Hey, everyone. So that was cool. Lord Byron, you are my most staunch supporter, and I appreciate it. Bleachers, what's up? Why you got to be so mad at Tim Draper? Honestly, I've talked to the guy 20 times, and he's been awesome every single time. You know, he's got that distinct perspective, which is his perspective. But what I just said is like literally true, that, Tim has been on board with creating some of the groundbreaking technology, or helping to recognize and help to fund some of the groundbreaking technology since the first .com boom. So I'm always real interested in what he has to say and looking forward to it. Looking forward to see how it plays out. And on top of that, it's really easy to switch your prediction when you make a prediction that's not going anywhere. Okay. It is really easy to make a prediction, then switch it. I used to work with a major national weather brand. I won't mention here, but anyway, I did. You probably know it. That was, if they made a seasonal prediction and it wasn't going that way, you just go ahead and revise the prediction. Tim has stuck since 2017 to the same prediction. If it goes to 250,000 by the end of 2023, which gives him a little bit of wiggle room, I would say we all owe him a beer at that point. But Lord Byron, I am totally interested in this soup coin thing. I want to see the soup. I don't want to have algorithmically produced soup because that's gone badly in the recent past. So anyway, my dudes, thank you everyone so much for joining us. I appreciate it. Me holding the worst time slot, holding it down in for Benzinga at 5 p.m. We are going to have on Wednesday at 5 p.m. going to have Legible on, the founder of Legible, talking about, just to add insult to injury, we're going to be talking about taxes, right? Because if you've tried to offboard any of that crypto, and you've noticed that you're going to run into a 30 or 40% tariff off the top of it. We'll be talking a little bit about how to avoid that and how to make this painful crypto winter just a little bit less painful. As always, I implore you all to, well, like and subscribe for one thing. But in addition to that, take care of yourselves. It's kind of a stressed out time right now. Let's be nice to each other. Let's not, sit there and make comments to my guests. I don't know what's with that. Jim's a super nice guy to deal with, so y'all should lay off that. But be nice to each other. Be nice to yourselves. Take a look at something else beside market reports today. Take a minute to go for a walk or something like that if you can. Honestly, I have a golden retriever, and that's probably half of why I'm still functional as a human being. She makes me go on walks 3 times a day. But anyway, thank you everyone for joining us today. Please hit like and subscribe. And I think you're all awesome. Please join me Wednesday at 5 p.m. to go talk to Legible. They have a lot of great things to say about crypto and taxes, and it is something that's worth knowing, like, before it becomes a problem for you. It's good to know a little bit ahead of time. Keep doing your research. Anyway, my dudes, thank you. I will talk to you soon. Peace. And gonna go ahead. I do this whole thing. I get going, and I don't have my music cue. Anyway, gonna hit this music cue, and then we're gonna sign off. Take care, everyone. Have a good night.